After surveying college, I pretty much decided fieldwork wasn't as interesting to me as maybe technology was. So I entered into selling equipment, and at the time the company I joined was started selling Topcon into the marketplace. That was in 1984. And in the year 2000 I took over as my own business with Bernard Chichelli, and the two of us started up Stadia Instruments. Then obviously the story evolved, and all the Topcon officers or people who were representing Topcon at the time became one business called Position Partners. That was in 2008. My biggest passion is taking a task or automating a task or making a difference in their workflow, which has been the most important thing for me throughout my career. Yeah, I guess the biggest change in the 80s was through the EDM. In the mid to late 70s, they had the electronic distance meter, which changed everything for us. But the EDM evolved, and once they took a theodolite, gave it some electronic angles, then they made a total station out of it, and that was probably the biggest change to our market. Traditionally, you would take a map of your points out in the field and had to actually know where the points were. GPS came along in the late 90s, early 2000s as a tool for surveyors, and quickly became a standard kit along with a total station for a surveyor. It sped up the process of doing a pickup or inaccessible spots. You didn't have to traverse in. We had a greater range to work in. From there, probably the biggest tick point after that is we've gone to mass data collection. So we've ended up into the UAV world or RPAS world. Computing power's got that much better. We can start to process massive points, and we get a much better model. We get a much better picture of what we're looking at. As we've evolved in the last sort of 10 years, we're starting to look more into a 3D world, and we're starting to be able to handle like point clouds in our computing capacity. So a surveyor's deliverable is much nicer if we can give a 3D model that people can rotate, spin around, see exactly what it is and where they are in relation to what they're building. So over the last 10 years, we've started to see that shift happen. RPAS definitely has revolutionised some of the tasks in the field. Now, to be able to throw a UAV up into the air and do a stockpile volume without anybody going anywhere near it, from an OHS safety point of view, obviously it's a much better task, a way of doing the task. It's also a great representation of how the project's going progress-wise from the air. RPAS has changed how we look at our surveys. The thing about LiDAR is that it'll get us better coverage in places like forest. If we do an RPAS survey through that area and it's heavily treed, we're not going to get the result we want on the ground. Whereas a LiDAR attached to a UAV, where you're getting laser scanning points down onto the ground, you'll actually get ground coverage. So we'll be able to pick points that have actually hit the ground. It'll increase our accuracy on some of those large-scale surveys. And if you can think of highways and new roadworks, there's some large-scale volume terrestrial surveys we have to do. The best way of picking that up is probably through RPAS, and even better than that still is using LiDAR with RPAS. Surveyors' techniques haven't changed over the years, and the basic principles of surveying still exist regardless of what they do. Whatever tools make his job a lot easier, that's just going to be his benefit. But at the end of the day, he is the data manager and needs to own it. Innovation. It's been the core of our business now for probably 20 or 30 years. That continuous improvement and refining our products to give better productivity and help surveyors do their tasks better. The core of a surveying profession always remains. There's basic principles of surveying don't change. So it's up to the survey community to embrace technology and embrace the innovation and own it. At the end of the day, we own the data. We will always own the data, and we're the best profession to understand that. That's what my message would be. Don't be scared of it, go with it and own it.